Hey there guys, what's going on? We are taking a break from dropping absolutely fire class setups in Modern Warfare today to bring you something a little bit different. Historically, Call of Duty has had some excellent maps, but there are also some real stinkers. Like, Call of Duty seriously has some of the most memorable maps in first-person shooters, like Nuketown, Rust, Shipment, are all maps that literally everyone who's played a COD game knows about. Basically, the Dust 2 of Call of Duty. Modern Warfare 2019 is of course no exception, with some absolutely fantastic maps, but there are also arguably the most disliked maps from recent memory. Now, why am I telling you this? Because we need an intro. So, welcome to the Modern Warfare 2019 map tier list for Season 2. That's probably not the catchiest of titles, but I'll definitely think of something else, maybe. We're going to be placing each of the maps in the Modern Warfare in a tier list to determine which are the best and which are the worst. We're going to be ranking the regular maps, like the 6v6 or 10v10 stuff, those included, and of course the ground war maps as well. We are skipping over the gunfight maps because I've actually not played an awful lot of gunfight, and there really isn't a lot to most of them. They're pretty boxy, pretty small maps, and they're fairly similar for the most part. I'll probably end up doing this later again in the year once we've got more maps, or my feelings might change with the map balancing, etc. Things like that, things might change. But just before we do get into the list here, let's try and get this video to 10 likes. We are well on our way to 500 subscribers, which is absolutely wild to me. So make sure you do hit that subscribe button with those notifications turned on so you don't miss any more of my videos. Right, so we do of course have 6 tiers, S, A, B, C, D, and E, of course. S being the best and E being absolute dumpster tier. So our first map that we do have here is of course Anaya Palace. You can see this bad boy little thumbnail here. I really do not like Anaya Palace. As far as regular maps go, it is far too large. Like, 10v10 on this map just feels like you're running for about 5 minutes just to get to the palace in the middle, just to die, and then you do it all over again. The gameplay loop on this map for 10v10 is really bad. It's just, I hate it. I do like the aesthetic, like, it's not a bad looking map at all, and I feel like in ground more, it's not too bad. Like, there's definitely enough people to shoot, but it doesn't really shine there either, because if you're at the spawn near E, you'll eventually just get spawn traps because there's just such good locations to sit. You just get spawn trapped in there, and then it's just not fun anymore. So this map does suck, and we might be being a little bit harsh here, but you are going in the dumpster tier, Anaya Palace. See ya. Next on our list is Arklov Peak. Arklov Peak is one of those maps in every Call of Duty that isn't really that memorable. Like, it's not a map that we'll be looking at in 3 years being like, man, I wish they'd add Arklov Peak to, like, Modern Warfare 2, 3, 4, what, the new game. You're not going to get Arklov Peak in that game. But that doesn't really make the map bad. It plays a lot better on maps or objectives where the game mode sort of moves around a little bit, like Hardpoint Headquarters, because you don't get really stuck fighting in between the two buildings in the middle too much, or you don't get spawn trapped near the barn like you do on Domination. Arklov Peak's fine. It's nothing to write home about, and it's not fantastic. Like, it's not terrible either. And for that, you do go in C tier. So next is Atlas Superstore. What do I do with you? I'll say this. I love the idea of Atlas Superstore. There's two main aesthetics that I really enjoy in these kind of games. And it's sort of things like a store, like things that are real, like real life department stores and stuff like that. That's a really cool aesthetic. And my other favorite one is things that are really, you're really small and the items are really large, but it's regular size, if you kind of get what I'm talking about. And Atlas Superstore, fighting in a supermarket should be really cool. I do love the idea of weaving in and out of the different aisles and up and down on shelves, but it doesn't really come together here. Like, the map really doesn't have too much flow to it. It's basically 3 lanes that are obscured by cover with different sort of vertical elements of gameplay, but there isn't really too many ways to get between the aisles. Like, you'd like to see more ups and downs between the different aisles and stuff like that. You want to sneak in and out, but it doesn't really come together. If you do want to get around an aisle, you've either got to run to the front, back, or middle, which can take a long time because the map is quite large. Flow's pretty important to a Call of Duty map, but so are the aesthetics, and sort of, because Atlas Superstore does look quite cool, it sort of doesn't play too great, but it does look quite cool, and it's fairly new, so I've not played it too much, so I feel like C tier is an appropriate spot for now. Next is Azir Cave. Azir Cave is not good. I feel like I'm not the only person who feels this way. It's not like the worst map in this game, but I do really roll my eyes a bit when this map does come up. Plus, I've actually not seen it for ages. Like, I haven't seen this map for ages. Did something happen to Azir Cave? Like, is it even in the game anymore? Anyway, the cave, being the major feature of this map, makes kill streaks pretty bad. Like, the cave actually makes about 80% of the flying kill streaks in this game really bad. Like, they're unusable. That is without mentioning the lighting that changes so drastically from being outside to being in the cave and vice versa. It's really, really hard to see sometimes with the lighting changes. Like, I mean, that is very realistic. Like, that's what would happen if you were exposed in the dark and then you go out into the bright light. You can't see anything. I get it. But that doesn't make for good gameplay. As a cave could be cool. Like, I imagine that Modern Warfare 2 map in sort of terms of it being a cool cave map. But they've not really done a fantastic job here. So, plus all the massive buildings and the cave, it just doesn't feel right. Like, D tier is for you as a cave. Modern Warfare's Crash is really good. I'll say it, I really like Crash. Sure, the spawns are a little bit broken, but it is a classic map, and I feel like that they've pretty faithfully recreated it here. I feel like there is constantly fights over specific areas of this map. Like at any given time, you'll have people fighting over the 2-story, 3-story, the back alley, the little shop thing, like the little 1-story shop thing, that roof, the bit in the middle, the helicopter. Like you've got all these fights happening at the same time, and this map has really, really good flow. If the spawns weren't as broken as they are, this probably would have been higher on this list. Like, you can literally hold the 2-story blue building with 2 proximity mines, and that's it. You don't have to do anything else. You just shoot the dudes who are unlucky enough to spawn there. So Crash does go in B tier because I really do like Crash. Ugh. Euphrates Bridge is probably the most divisive map Call of Duty has made in a long time. I can't think of a map that is both universally hated but also loved at the same time. If you're someone who likes rushing with assault rifles and SMGs, you're probably disgusted by the thought of Euphrates Bridge. I can distinctly remember rolling my eyes so many times at the thought of loading into this map, but if you do play with a sniper, this is probably the best map they've ever made. Like, for sniping, this is the best map, hands down, no lie at all. Long lines aside, fights happening basically across the whole map. Like, you can be sitting in complete opposite ends of the map and having sniper fights. It's actually cool if you're into that. I'm not into that though. I get what they were going for here, but you've got to have something for everyone with maps like these. Like, I imagine that what they were going for is they wanted to have this big long range map where fights are a bit slower and stuff like that. But think of it like this. The left-hand side of the map when you come from the C flag is exactly the same. You get that big line of sight, you sort of run out there, you jump off the little ledge thing and you get sniped. Like, that's fair enough, I don't mind that. Where's where the stairs are, you have big sniper jewels along there. But the right side is completely collapsed. Like, the bridge is down, there's on the ground, there's pieces of rubble everywhere to duck in behind, and it's perfect for SMGs and shotguns to sprint around. Like, you just get around cover and you just have an absolutely great time. Imagine if that bridge was just on the ground, collapsed. Like, that would be so much better. You'd have something to do if you were an SMG or a shotgun or an assault rifle player. You don't just get stuck dying to snipers the whole game. I mean, I'm just spitballing here, but I think that'd be better. Like, more diverse gameplay would make this map tolerable, but it's not diverse at all, really. It's just snipers and sort of long-range fights. You sit on the bridge and you just spawn trap them. I just hate Euphrates Bridge, and E tier for you, of course. Grasner Raid is an interesting one because it's where I've actually been trying to go for my nukes. If you can control the construction area with a couple of betties, like, if the enemy's spawning near the A flag, there isn't a lot they can actually do about you killing them. You just rack up all these frags while you're just sitting in this one building, just waiting for them to spawn. It's a really strong position to take, but, and this is a pretty big but here, there are way too many buildings on this map. Like, it's too big and there are way too many buildings. If you think of Modern Warfare, you do think of campers. Like, that's just the reputation the game has. There's no way around it. People just sit still and then that's it. This map is designed for sitting in one place, looking out the window. Like, there are just so many positions on this map where you can just sit there forever and just wait for someone who's unlucky enough to not really know what's going on to just run past. And, you know, like, I guess the open side of the map where the trenches are, that big open field, was designed for those long-range fights, like with snipers going over the top and stuff like that, and the 2 different buildings, with maybe a little bit of action in the trenches, but it doesn't really work here. Like, you don't ever see anybody over there. The trenches aren't deep enough to actually be effective. Like, you just get shot. Like, you can't actually hide in there. You just get shot from pretty much everywhere. So I feel like because it's a map that I can work with and rack up those longer streaks, but also a map that most people don't like, I think C tier is probably appropriate here. Next is Gun Runner. Gun Runner is a good map. Why? Because it's small enough to be constantly engaging. You can pretty much play however you want on Gun Runner. You can do snipers, you can use assault rifles. Like, snipers can work with the taller buildings or the longer sight lines. SMG players can run in and out of the trains or in the building in the middle with the vent. Like, there's really something for pretty much everybody to work with here. Obviously, I wish the vent didn't exist. People just claymore it, chuck a Betty in there and camp, which does suck and probably stops from being higher on this list. But I do really like Gun Runner. Gun Runner is a very good map in this game, and I feel like you already knew that. So, Gun Runner is good, so A tier. Hackney Yard is very similar to Gunrunner in the same sort of style. A small engaging map with every playstyle being very effective. You can't really go wrong on Hackney Yard. Like, this is one of my favourite maps this year, fast paced and not too many places to camp. Of course, people can still sit in the buildings at the A and C flags, but there is a lot of clutter in the way, so it's not like you can just sort of have complete map control sitting up there. You see the entire map down there, like in those shipping containers. You can just, if you were able to just sit at the top of the map or the edges of the map and just snipe them, that would feel terrible. But that big building near the C flag, the one that's not the building but in front of the C flag, blocks that line of sight from window to window. It's actually a pretty big deal. Like, it prevents sniping between the two buildings at the end of the map, and it probably saves a lot of frustration. This is a very, very good map, and it should probably be included in those close quarters playlists like Shoot House, Rush, Shipment, Hackney Yard, and at a push, Gunrunner. Small, fast, and really, really fun, man. Like, this is going to be one of those maps that people are like, yeah, man, can we get Hackney Yard in the next game? It's a really, really good map. So A tier for sure. Next, as I said, we were doing ground war maps as well as Anaya Palace. We do have Cast River Quarry. It's pretty good. Like, as far as ground war maps go, there are good ones and they're the ones that are pretty bad. Like, this is one of the good ones though. Every playstyle is effective here. The flow feels nice, it's pretty big and feels like a nice big sandbox to run around in. The tanks on the hill used to be a massive problem, but I don't think that's a huge issue anymore since they did get nerfed, and I don't think you can really sit up there too effectively anymore. It's not going to be your most memorable map, and we'll probably never see it again after this game, but it's still super fun to play on. I do enjoy my time on Cast River Quarry. You can, of course, get spawn trapped on where the big factory is up on that left hill. If you spawn there, you can get spawn trapped there, but that's how it goes, unfortunately. It's nothing super special, but it does a good job. I feel like B tier is appropriate for this. Next, we do have Krovnik Farmland, and that is one of my favourite maps in this game. I just love the vibe on this map. There isn't a lot of cover, but sort of the rolling hills does do a pretty job of keeping you safe most of the time. A common theme with most of the good maps in this game is that every single playstyle that you can think of is very effective. People don't want the thing they like being gimped. Like, Euphrates Bridge. If you're a sniper, you'll love the map. If you do anything else, you'll hate it. Like, that doesn't make for a good map. So with Krovnik Farmland, the fact that you can do pretty much whatever you want means that it is such a good map. If you want to snipe, you're set. You can sit in the buildings and just watch people cross out into the open fields, or you can move into the forest and engage in those really tense, sort of sharp sniper battles that just feel awesome. It's so good. You can, of course, also sprint between the buildings with shotguns and SMGs, and you can do it all with assault rifles. Krovnik Farmland is really fun, and I'm glad they blocked off some of the stairs, like the upstairs in some of the buildings, to make it a little bit less campy. This goes firmly in A tier for me. I love this map. Alright, Piccadilly probably isn't as bad as you think it is. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still get pretty bad vibes from this place, but I think it's better than it used to be. It used to just be like literally the worst map in the game, just the spawns. You just get instantly spawned and then just trapped. If you spawned on the wrong side of the map, you were just done. Like, you just leave. If you spawned on the side with the arcade and the buses, like, you're just done. There's nothing you could do. Like, you just got spawn trapped and that was the end of it. It's definitely better now, but it's still not a super fantastic map. Like, there isn't a lot of cover, and you're sort of funneled towards the buses if you're playing with an SMG or a shotgun. You need that cover, so you got to be weaving in and out in the buses, and then there's like, you got to get into the buildings and stuff like that. It just feels pretty bad most of the time. I actually do like the way this map looks. Like, I think the idea is very, very cool. A real life location that's sort of been a bit trashed and like that. I really like that idea, but it doesn't really play very well. There isn't a nice lane structure. Like, you're always sort of funneled towards the buses and then sort of into the spawn, but that doesn't feel really good. There's also probably too many buildings around the outside of the map, making the middle feel like pretty dangerous most of the time. Like, if you're in the middle, you're probably going to get shot by somebody in one of the buildings. The spawns used to suck, like I said. They're definitely better now, but it can't really save what is a pretty bad map. So this goes in D tier. It's not disgustingly bad anymore. Like, it doesn't make me vomit anymore, but it's still one of the worst maps. Port of Verdansk is pretty good. I can't really complain about this map too much. Like, it's got Vacant in this ground war map, which is pretty cool. You always love to see different sort of elements of maps be part of bigger maps. Like, you can play however you want on this map. It is pretty good. I don't really have an awful lot to say about Port of Verdansk. Like, it's a good map that you can play in a variety of ways, and it's pretty fun running around. Like, running around Vacant is really, really cool, but it's fairly forgettable. It's not something that you'll just like play over and over again and just tell all your mates about how good Port is. Like, you just don't hear about it too much because it's pretty good. It's not the best, so it can go at the top of C tier. It's good, but it's not like the best map in the game. Next, Ramaza is one of those maps that I don't really gel with too well. Like, in theory, this should be a good map. Like, you can pretty much play however you want, but I don't think this map flows pretty well, and that probably brings down the map a lot. Like, This map is also probably like way too campy. Like there are a lot of windows and doorways on this map where it just sort of doesn't feel very good. Like you can just sit there forever and just wait for people to run past. It feels pretty bad. Lots of little corners to sit in. This map does play pretty well and on those game modes where the objective does move around because you do get to see more of it. You're not stuck in the same sort of positions, waiting at the A flag, stuff like that. You get to see more map basically, but I feel like Hardpoint and Headquarters make this map pretty good, but like Domination, there's a pretty nasty spawn trap with the flag. I think it's the A flag that's near the building. It's not the best map, but it's not terrible either, and that for me means C tier. Rust makes me feel good. I know it isn't the most balanced map, and the spawns are pretty shit most of the time, and they can be better, but I do not care about that at all. Because Rust makes me feel things I haven't felt for a while. This is obviously one of the best maps, and definitely one of the most memorable maps for sure. Every playstyle that you want to play with works here. If you do want to play a little bit slow, you get up on top of that tower there and you do pick people off. If you want to play fast, you grab an MP5, sprint around everywhere. Like there isn't even a single door on this map, which is way more relevant than I thought it'd be. Like when I started playing this, I noticed that there was no doors in this map, and that makes such a big deal. Like Call of Duty has so many doors this year, and it's ridiculous. Like there's so many places you can just sit behind, and Rust doesn't have a single door, man. It's such a big deal. Like, I know you can't really take this map too serious. Like, you can't get stressed out when you're getting spawn trapped on Rust. That is unfortunately what happens. Just relax. This is one of the best maps in the game for sure. And I know people get mad about it, but I will not hear any talk that is negative about Rust. I just love it so much. So this is the first S tier map for me, for sure. So, Shipment is not a good map in this game, but it does serve a very important purpose. You chuck on that double XP token and you just get so much experience here. It is not a serious map, and the spawns still are very shit, but there isn't really anything they can do about it. Like, I mean, they could work a little bit better to not have you spawn directly in front of someone. Like, that could always be a bit better. You should always spawn near a teammate unless there's an enemy near them. But whatever, we're not talking about the spawns on Shipment because you know that they're busted. The map's too small for it to actually work appropriately. That's just how it is. It's small and dumb, but the experience you get here probably does do way more for it than anything else. Like, you know what Shipment is, but people still get mad about it. Like, it can be frustrating, but think of that experience that you do get. Don't worry about it so much. So we do unfortunately have D tier for Shipment, but we'll go at the top because it's close to C for the experience game. Shoot House, baby! Everyone knows that this is one of the best maps in this game, if not the absolute best. Everything works here. SMGs, shotguns, snipers, assault rifles, LMGs, marksman. You can just do whatever you want here. Everything works. 3 lanes, small and fast paced. You know Shoot House is great. I know Shoot House is great. It was just such a breath of fresh air when they added it to this game. 24-hour Shoot House playlist was just mind-blowing how different the game felt when this was added. It even made the other maps feel more playable because people were like, actually, we can run around and sprint on this map. Like, Shoot House changed this game. It's so good, such a good map, and we're going to see this for years to come as one of the favorite maps that people are always going to talk about now. This is up there with Rust, Shipment, like all those other good maps. This is the new map that is going to go in these playlists from now on. Like, you're going to see this in other games for sure. People love the fast-paced maps in this game because the game feels completely different, and I think they'll work with that towards future map releases. Like, future map releases are going to feel more similar to like Shoot House rather than something like Crash or even like As You Raid Piccadilly. You're not going to find something that's sort of slow and campy. You're going to find things that are just quick, fast-paced, action all the time. So good. So of course, Shoot House goes in S tier, of course. Like, there's nowhere else for this to go. It couldn't go any lower than S tier. Shoot House is the best map in this game. Right, St. Petrograd, also known as St. Petersburg, is not great. It's got 3-ish lanes. Like, it's hard to describe like just how many lanes this has because it's got the outside left, it's got the outside right, it's got the bit with the tram tracks, it's got the bit in the middle. Is that 4 lanes? Is 5 lanes? Like, it feels weird. It's just ugh. Most of the fighting happens between the 2 main buildings in the middle, so in that middle third lane-ish, like those 2 big buildings. Most of the fights happen in between there. And the rest of the map's pretty boring. It's actually really, really large for a map that's quite thin, and it does take about, like, almost 2 minutes of straight sprinting to get from one end to the other, and that's ridiculous. So it does feel pretty bad most of the time. It's not disgustingly bad, like, it's not something that we'll want to see in another game. The, of course, advantage of this is the maps or the game modes that move around a lot. It does make this play a little bit better, but it's not a good map. This is D tier for sure. I do not like St. Petrograd. Tovorsk District feels okay. This is the okayest map in this game. Like, the individual flags, like the individual sites, like C, A, the big library, the construction site on C, the big sort of Parliament courthouse building on B, D with the big museum, or not the museum, but like the big building with the top thing, E with like the playground. Like, the individual sites in this map feel really, really good. Like, the flag bits are good. The rest of this map's kind of meh, because you can get pretty much shot from literally anywhere. Like, you're going to end up shooting from about 4 different roofs if you try and run through the streets, and that feels pretty bad. But shooting people from the rooftops feels awesome. So it's just one of those maps that people are always going to be like, yes, this is my favorite map. Yes, this is the worst map, because you just run out, you get shot, or you do the shooting. So you can do whatever you want here, really. It's like a pretty good sandbox, and I don't really mind playing it sometimes. It's usually kind of fun when I get into it. So that's basically what a C tier map is. This can go at the bottom because it's not my most favorite map, but it's not that bad. Vacant is actually really good in this game. This is one of my favorite maps for sure. It has something for everyone, and there's a really good flow here, but you knew this. You'll find decent amounts of action pretty much everywhere on this map. If you do want to snipe, the left-hand side with the warehouse is pretty great for that. And the rest of the map is great for pretty much everything else. Like, you get your SMGs, your shotguns, your ARs, everything works here. It is a little bit lame that the kill streaks aren't super powerful because most of the map is inside, but if the streaks are outside, you'll be able to control that map, like that part of the map really, really easily. It doesn't really belong in the S tier because it's not as good as Shoot House or Rust, but it shouldn't really be any worse than A. Like, Vacant's good. You know it's good. I get good vibes from this. Makes me think of good maps, good times. So yeah, A tier for Vacant. And our last map that we're looking at today is, of course, the newly added Grand War map, Zhukov Boneyard. There's a problem with Zhukov Boneyard. You can sit in the E spawn and get a nuke with the Joker missile launcher. You can sit near the ammo box in spawn and just shoot rockets for literally the entire game, and you get a nuke. This is unbelievable. Like, this is obviously fixable. Like, they can either remove the ammo box or put it in a different spot or make it so you can't see the C flag from the spawn. But other than that, the map's pretty good. Like, I love the aesthetic of all these broken down planes, the plane hulls. You just sort of duck in and out between them. There's loads of different playstyles that work here. You get your big open sight lines over the fields near the plane wreckages and stuff like that, and then you get inside and out of the planes in between them. You know, it's actually really, really good. This is a good map. Like, I really do like this. And sort of it plays pretty well. And it's also cool that Scrapyard is in this map. I do want to see Scrapyard come back, but we'll see if that does happen. Like, lots of good memories here playing on Scrapyard. It's really cool to see maps that are like this go into other maps. We'll put this in B tier, the bottom of B tier, because it's almost C tier. It's not super great, but it is new, and I have not played it too much, so I feel like B or C tier is appropriate here. Right, so that is our full list here. I'll go over it quickly. So S tier, we do have Rust and Shoot House. A, Hackney Yard, Gun Runner, Krovnik Farmland, and Vacant. B is Crash, whatever the quarry one's called, Zhukov Boneyard. C is Port, Arklov Peak, Ramaza, Atlas, Superstore, Grasner Raid, and the District one. The District one. D is Shipment, but only because of the experience gain. If it didn't have such good experience gain, it would be E tier because the map is shit. St. Petrograd? St. Petersburg. This one. Map sucks. Hate it. Azir Cave. Piccadilly. Not as bad as you remember, but still pretty bad. E tier is Anaya Palace because you know why. And, of course, Euphrates Bridge. I know people are going to disagree with me about Euphrates Bridge. If you love sniping, you'll probably have Euphrates Bridge A tier, S tier. Like, it's such a good sniping map, but literally everybody else, this map sucks. There's nothing else you can say about it. This map is bad if you don't snipe. But, anyway, all the maps in Modern Warfare with my thoughts. If you do feel like skipping to the end of the video, that was the quick rundown. I feel like this is a pretty good list, but of course, feel free to disagree with me. I really actually do like to see your guys' opinions about these things in the comments below. Like, I'd love to have a discussion about moving some of these up or down, depending on what you guys want. I'd love to hear what you guys think, and yeah, thank you very much for watching this. I do appreciate it, of course. If you did enjoy it, make sure you do leave a like and do subscribe if you are new around here. I very much appreciate it. It means an awful lot to me when I see that little number tick up, and it would very much help me out, of course. If everyone who was subscribed got one friend to subscribe, just did me a favor. Told one friend to subscribe, even if they don't care, even if they don't watch Call of Duty videos. You're a good man, you're doing me a solid. I'd be very close to 1,000 subscribers, which would be absolutely wild. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye!